Paul Berry.
And I was just thinking, we have all heard about someone whose life situation has changed. And you've said it yourself. Did you hear what happened to so-and-so? Seemingly in the twinkle of an eye. We go from someone who can help to someone who needs help. We go from someone who has a loved one next to us to someone who is now lost. I just came back this week from Detroit where I buried a good friend, and I was asked to do the eulogy. And I was sitting there looking at his lovely wife, and Nancy, who has lost her partner. Now, that's one way. Of course, there's divorce. But what happens when life's events change and our loved one is either taken or divorced or gone? What should we do about our finances, and can we properly prepare before, just in case? Please welcome Certified Estate Planner Jean Dorrell, founder and president of Senior Financial Security. Jean, welcome to the program. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Paul.
Absolutely. You say, while the world of finance may seem foreign to many women, it is important that they take control if they find themselves widowed. My goodness, absolutely. And I just talked to Nancy when I was on my way in this morning, Jean, so I know firsthand. And she seems lost, and she's not, because he, and as most he's, has always taken care of the finances. That's not an unusual situation, is it?
No, it's absolutely not. And the worst possible situation is to lose your best friend and then be thrown into all these financial and legal issues and have no idea what to do and who to turn to.
So how do you broach this, Jean? How do you talk to your I'm in control husband? Because generally that's the situation. Not always, but most cases. How do you broach with him, look, you ought to let me in on this. You ought to get me, I should be prepared. How do you do that?
I have a conversation with the two of them. Just in general speaking, I will ask her in front of him, if something happened to your husband. Now, he doesn't have to die, but maybe he just can't remember his name for a couple of months. Could you, Nancy, for example, step in and be Jim? Could you do all these things? And she inevitably shakes her head and says, no, I can't. And so then I look at the husband and I'll say, does that concern you? And
Right.
Generally speaking, most of the time he'll say, that's why I'm here.
The thing speaks for itself. I mean,
Yes.
if you bring it up that way, it's kind of difficult to say we shouldn't be doing anything, right?
Right. Now, once in a while, the husband might say, oh, I have everything in writing. It's organized. It's in a book. All she has to do is follow it. And I'll say to Jim, what if Nancy asked you to bake or make your favorite recipe of hers, and all she did was give it to you in writing? Do you think yours would turn out as good as hers? So it kind of just drives home the point a little bit.
That is just brilliant, Jean. So it's really about having that conversation, broaching the issue, and understanding that there has to be some understanding, some help, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is so important, folks. My guest is Certified Estate Planner Jean Dorrell. Our topic today, suddenly single financial planning. It could happen to you. When we come back, we're going to have her take us through some of the things that you should be, legal documents, health care needs, reassigning beneficiaries, all the things. Very quickly, we're going to go through them, but get a pencil and paper and be prepared. More to come from Jean Dorrell after these brief messages. This is Home and Family Finance. Thanks for being with us. I'm Paul Berry. You're listening to Home and Family Finance. I'm your host, Paul Berry, and we thank you for joining us. Our Home and Family Finance national sponsors are Co-op Network, Cabot Cooperative Creamery, and the Defense Credit Union Council, and we thank them for their continued support. We continue now with Certified Estate Planner Jean Dorrell. Jean is discussing the tips that single women can follow to become financially stable after the loss of the family breadwinner. Now, we've convinced Jim and Nancy that they need to discuss and they need to talk. And so the question then becomes, what do they talk about? I know you say you start out by getting legal documents in order. Is that right, Jean?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very important to have your legal documents in order and someone named that you trust to take care of health care matters and financial matters. Otherwise, you get the state's plan, which is no good.
Okay, and when you talk about legal documents, you're talking what, a will or?
What's most important is the documents that are needed before we die. So that would be your durable powers of attorney for financial, your health care surrogate documents, which name a trusted person or persons to make health care decisions for you if you're in a coma, if you don't know your name, and you need a surgery. And a living will is very important. A living will is not a will. A will is what happens after we die. It distributes our estate the way that we want it after it goes through probate. But a living will is a document that dictates what you want to have happen if you're in an in-state condition. You're terminally ill, you're in a vegetative state, then this tells your loved ones and your doctors what you want to have happen.
And then you say health care needs to be addressed now. What exactly what and why?
Well, the health care power of attorney names someone that you trust to make decisions for you. Obviously, if you're married, most people name their spouse. It's very important, though, to name an alternate, say one of your most trusted children. Maybe you have a nurse or a doctor in the family, someone who can make an unemotional decision. It's interesting because when I talk to people and say, who would you want to make this decision, they might say, little Bobby. Well, do you think little Bobby could do this without being emotional? And then they kind of chuckle and say, well, no, maybe it would be better for Billy to do it.
Being thoughtful is what you say. You got to be thoughtful about these things, not emotional,
Absolutely.
Right? You say reassign beneficiaries. Now, what do you mean, and why is that important?
That is so important because a lot of people don't realize. You were asking about a will. You really don't need a will if you can name beneficiaries on everything you own. Now, I'm in Florida, and in Florida, you can even name a beneficiary on the real estate that you own. Even if you're not a resident in Florida, you can still name a beneficiary in the county where the house is located. Costs about $20 to do that. A lot of people don't know that, and they leave their house in their will, which still has to go through probate, and a beneficiary designation does not. So it's important to understand that beneficiaries override every other legal document you have.
Okay. That's so important to know. I didn't know that. So by naming a beneficiary, you keep that particular item or issue out of probate.
Out of probate, you keep it private. You don't need an attorney to help distribute the estate. It does a lot of powerful things for basically peanuts or free.
Okay. And you say determine future goals. Now, what do you mean by that, Jean?
Determining your future goals have to do with your money. You know, what generally happens, I've been doing this 20 years, and unfortunately, I don't always get to sit with a couple before something happens. I do a lot of widower seminars and educational forums, and so I end up with the widow or widower in front of me after it's already occurred. And what we have to sort through is how much income has this person lost, because generally speaking, if it's a couple and he's going to get a pension, he's going to choose the highest amount, which is going to die with him. So she's lost maybe $30,000 a year in his pension that she no longer gets. She's lost one of their Social Security checks, and she's got to take what savings they have and replace that lost income. You know,
we don't like to think about it, folks. We all think we're going to live forever. We're not, and we ought to prepare, and I think one of the most generous things we can do, either one way or the other, male or female, is to get prepared so that our loved one does not have to go through a stressful situation because you or she have lost your life. Just makes sense. Jean, my listeners want to get in touch with you or someone like you. How should we tell them to reach out to you?
Absolutely. I have a toll-free number. It's 866-829-3337, or they can go to my website, which is www.seniorchoices.tv, like television, .tv, not .com.
Great. Jean Dorrell, what a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time and for sharing your ideas and thoughts with us today on Suddenly Single Financial Planning. It is so important, as you pointed out, and it's something that women can make sure that they've got in order, which can lessen the stress when they lose a loved one, right?
I'm happy to help, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you here.